Alright, hello again YouTube, this is David, Thrash Till Death 555, and welcome to part 3 of my favorite albums of 2020. So, if you guys are cool with it, we're just going to move along. I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into it here. Next up we have Protest the Hero with Palimpsest. This was definitely an album I was hugely anticipating. Protest the Hero is one of my absolute favorite bands within the prog metal genre, especially within modern prog metal. Rhodey thankfully got over, his vocal issues and got his voice all cleared up and back together so he could start singing again, and he came back on this album stronger than ever. And the rest of the band, of course, also gave a fantastic performance. The writing is great. The musicianship is just spectacular, as you can always expect from these guys. And just uber technical playing, yet just such easily accessible, music at the same time. Definitely their most political thing they've ever done to date. This band has always had their leftist political stuff throughout their lyrics and stuff, but this is definitely the most political this band has ever gotten. But it does send a positive message, and while I personally try to stay out of politics for the most part, I can definitely still appreciate the songwriting and the message behind a lot of these songs. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that subject. But, yeah, just so many great songs on here. The two singles that they released before the album came out just already had me hyped. And, yeah, there's just not a single bad track on here. From the Sky, the ending on that, Rhodey just is absolutely just fucking going for it, and just, man, his vocals are just absolutely stellar on the ending of that song. Just a majestic, beautiful, powerful ending for that song, From the Sky. But yeah, if you're looking for standouts for prog metal in 2020, look no further than Protest the Hero with Palimpsest. Fan-fucking-tastic release. Let's put that back the right way, shall we? Okay, and next up... Oh, hold on, I gotta scroll up a bit here. Kind of lost my place. Next up, we go to Nekrovault with Totenzug, Festering, Peregrination. Yeah, a little bit of a mouthful there. But, yeah, Nekrovault, this is released on Von Records. This is a German death metal band, and this is just absolutely dark, evil, murky sounding death metal, some Incantation influence, some Swedish death metal influence here and there. Quite a bit of variety within death metal influences for this band. But yeah, like I said, murky, kind of has just a thick, swampy kind of production to it. Just beastly, evil sounding growls. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Triumph or Foul here and there, except maybe like a more doomier, slower version of it, like not nearly as chaotic and abrasive as Triumph or Foul. But yeah, I could definitely compare it to Triumph or Foul a bit here and there. But yeah, if you're just looking for evil, old school, punishing death metal, then Nekrovault is definitely a damn good one from this year. And thank you to Natskog for letting me know about that one, because I did not know about this band until he showed it in his video, 10 metal bands you haven't heard but should. So thank you, Natskog, for that one. And we are moving on to Obscene with the Inhabitable Dark. I got to see these guys open for Blood Incantation and Necrot back in 2019 at the Black Circle Brewing. And man, I was absolutely blown away by their performance. What a great opening act for that show, especially when you're playing with bands like Blood Incantation and Necrot. But I remember talking with a few of them after the show, telling me that they had an album that they were working on that was coming out on Blood Harvest. And that is this album, The Inhabitable Dark. And it is just really just solid old school death metal, man. It's just, it's got tons of energy and just punishing riffs. The vocals are also pretty just fucking in your face, and there's a huge variety of the growls and high screams. Some slight Impetigo influence, if you ask me. I can hear it a little bit within the vocals, but yeah, it's a pretty short release, but it's just short, catchy, and sweet. Yeah, pretty simple, but definitely works very, very well for this band. Yeah, solid death metal from Obscene with the Inhabitable Dark. And next up, we go to Vampire with Rex. This is released on Century Media. This is a band from a death thrash band from Sweden. To most people, most people do consider them a death thrash band, but to me, Vampires always sounded more like a black thrash band to me, with like a strong, like traditional heavy metal vibe throughout. Because, you know, whenever I think of death thrash, I think of bands like, you know, Morbid Saint, Merciless, Infernal Majesty, Messiah, you know, Numbskull, stuff like that. That to me is what I think of when I hear death thrash. This band is so much more black metal oriented. It's within the vocals, it's within the guitars. I hear it, you know, all over the place. But call it what you will, it is just a great, catchy, fun, extreme metal album from Vampire. And this is their third full length. And yeah, they just continue to make great album after great album. Just, yeah, like I said, a really catchy, fun, extreme metal album. So if that's what you're looking for, Vampire Rex has definitely got you covered on that front. Next up, we go to Eternal Rot with Putridarium. The first Eternal Rot record, I remember, was getting a lot of praise. And for whatever reason, I just wasn't that crazy about it, about the first one. And then I decided to check this one out. I was like, okay, maybe this one will be a little better. And it is. It is a lot better to me than their first album. Just, it's more memorable. There's just the songs kind of pack more of a punch, and are just things are just more catchy, and just and that was my problem with the first album. It just didn't feel very catchy. It was just kind of bland, kind of just, you know, kind of boring for Death Doom. And I love Death Doom, but yeah. They really improved it on this album. The drum performance on this is highly, highly improved. The drums just are very busy, and they just really keep things interesting and keep things moving along very nicely. Very nice flow throughout the album. Tons of grooves and just tons of atmosphere as well. You could almost call this like atmospheric Death Doom, because the vocals are very cavernous and just very echoey, and yeah, gives it that strong atmospheric kind of feel. But yeah, I wish I had the CD to show, because the artwork from Mark Riddick is absolutely killer on this, but unfortunately I don't have the CD. But yeah, if you're looking for some great Death Doom, Eternal Rot, Putridarium. Next up, we go to Dearth, To Crown All Befoulment. The label escapes me at the moment. This is their debut full length. Another band that I have to thank Natskog for introducing me. Once again, he showed this in his 10 metal bands you haven't heard but should, and this was such a fucking delight. I'm a sucker for that atmospheric death metal sound. I absolutely fucking love it, and that's exactly what this is. This album from Dearth is just pure fucking evil atmospheric death metal, just the way I love it. The cavernous, echoing vocals that are just so sinister and just evil sounding. Punishing riffs, blast beats, tons of black metal influence. You could almost say this is like atmospheric black death. So yeah, if you like any of those kind of bands, oh man, I can't stress it enough. Dearth, To Crown All Befoulment. Fucking amazing atmospheric death metal. Absolutely love this. Really bummed that I couldn't get this one on CD either. And let me get some water here. And next up, we are going to go to Slasher Dave with Cannibal Death Gods, Part 1 and 2. So, it's a double album. This is the frontman from Acid Witch, and this is the only non-metal album on this list, because this is more of a, this is a synth movie soundtrack sort of album, and what he does here is pays tribute to the Italian zombie and cannibal films from the 70s and the 80s. So for horror fans, this is just an absolute delight. His love for horror movies has always come through within his work, but definitely more so with this project, even more than Acid Witch, I would say. Dave just does such a great job with these Slasher Dave albums, just whenever he pays tribute to a different style of movie, and he just and all these different composers, he just does a fantastic job arranging and putting all this stuff together. You can just really tell he knows this stuff, he loves it, and it comes through his work. Part 1 is more on the Cannibal side of things, so reminiscent of stuff like Make Them Die Slowly, Cannibal Holocaust, and there's also a bit of Fulci's Zombie throughout, because that's got the jungle kind of theme to it. So that's part 1, and then part 2 is more on the zombie side of things. And that pays tribute to films like Burial Ground, Nightmare City, Hell of the Living Dead, and Dr. Butcher. If you haven't seen any of those and you love Italian horror, what are you doing? Those are absolute musts if you're an Italian horror fan. I'm a pretty big fan of Italian horror. It's just crazy different. But yeah, I love this album. All the arrangements are great. Like I said, he just really makes all these tracks come to life, and just you can just picture and envision all the scenes from these movies in your head as it's playing. It's fucking awesome. So yeah, Slasher Dave, Cannibal Death Gods, parts 1 and 2. Next up we go to, oh look, I can show the CD. Draghkar with At the Crossroads of Infinity. This is a co-release with Unspeakable Acts and Dark Descent. This is their debut full length. And this is just excellent. Mostly death metal, but with a strong traditional heavy metal influence throughout with the guitar work and just with the melodies. It's very strong melodies coming through on this, but just extremely catchy, memorable. I love the vocals as well. And a lot of people also say that there's some Greek black metal in here. I can't really speak much to that because that's not really something I know a whole lot about, but yeah, I guess you could definitely say there are some black metal elements within this as well. But yeah, just killer mix of death metal and traditional heavy metal, and you know, whatever else you want to throw in there. Call it what you will. It is excellent, catchy, memorable, great stuff. Shout out to Brandon Corsair from Ride Into Glory, if you're not familiar with that website that is just a traditional heavy metal based website. He is the guitarist and vocalist on this, and he does an absolutely fantastic job. Andrew Lee, I believe, also helped produce this. So just a really cool killer lineup on this. Yeah, I couldn't get enough of this. Just extremely high replayability for this one, for sure. Draghkar, At the Crossroads of Infinity. And next up, Incantation, Sect of Vile Divinities, released on Relapse Records, produced by Dan Swano, once again, as he has been producing the past several Incantation albums. This is just Incantation being Incantation, man. Just great, cavernous, filthy death metal. Yes, I know, not quite as cavernous and filthy as the past stuff. This is definitely more in the cleaner direction, but there's no denying that the Incantation sound is still present. You know, John's vocals and riffs are great, and the rest of the band gives a solid performance as well. Not my favorite death metal album of the year, but this is still one of the greatest death metal bands of all time, and just, I don't know, as a huge death metal fan and as a huge fan of Incantation, how can I not put this on the list? Man, it's fucking Incantation, man. I think that's all that needs to be said. Incantation, Sect of Vile Divinities. Just really, really fucking cool stuff, as always, from this band. Okay, let me get some more water. I feel like I'm talking a little bit too fast here. Okay. This is the last thing I have to talk about, and I do not have a physical release for it, but I've got quite a bit to say about it. And this is Havukruunu with an album title I'm not going to pronounce because I will butcher it, and it is in Finnish. So, this is a Finnish pagan epic black metal band. Yes, you heard me right. There's a black metal album on David's favorites of 2020. I've said on here several times, black metal is one of my least favorite genres. Just, there are a handful of black metal bands that I do enjoy, but just most of the time, this genre of metal is just, doesn't usually have just everything that I crave out of the metal genre. But Havukruunu definitely was a slap in the face and just hey, fuck you for thinking that way. We deserve to be on your list. And this was the biggest shock for me out of everything I heard this year because of how much I really, really enjoyed this. And I think what really did it is Havukruunu's inclusion of traditional heavy metal throughout this album. A lot of people say this sounds like Bathory, mixed with traditional heavy metal. And I have been delving into the Viking era of Bathory, particularly Blood on Ice. I thought was really, really good, and I can definitely hear a strong influence from Bathory's Blood on Ice throughout this album. It's folky, it's got tons of atmosphere because this is black metal after all. That is something that black metal is usually known for, is having a ton of atmosphere. It's got fucking just fantastic guitar work. I just love these solos that come throughout, and there's also like some just speed metal kind of riffs on here. And it's also heavy enough, for black metal, at least for me anyway. It's got enough heaviness to it that doesn't forsake the melody or the catchiness or the flow of the album. It's, oh man, I'm starting to be at just kind of a loss for words. This is just fantastic stuff, man. I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed this, and I'm on the lookout to find more traditional heavy metal fueled black metal that sounds like this. And I've checked out their other 2 albums that came out before this, as well as the EP, and I love those as well. So I'm already up to speed with the entire discography of this band. Yeah, man, Havukruunu is great, and you're going to see this on so many year-end lists. This is a popular pick for so many people this year, and for very, very good reason. But yeah, without a doubt, the biggest surprise for me for 2020. Yeah, Havukruunu with, that album. Since I'm not going to attempt to say it. But yeah, that's going to do it for part 3. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you for part 4 again very soon. Yeah, later.